very pleased to have MPP Monte McNaughton here. So Monte, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Eric, for having me on today.
So I got to ask you right out front how are you and your family doing during this very crazy time in our province and all around the world?
Well, it certainly is a strange time, unprecedented time right across the entire world and right here in Ontario and, of course, right here in Chatham-Kent and across my riding of Lambton-Kent Middlesex. My wife, Kate, is doing very well, thank goodness. Our 6-year-old daughter is doing well. We're like many parents. We now have a child home all the time, and every morning at 9 o'clock, we're getting her started on her online classes for the day. So we're doing well, and of course, thinking about everybody else right across the municipality.
That's great. And of course, with social distancing, I think everyone's doing their best to flatten the curve here. And we have to thank our senior levels of government for, putting all these little SOPs into place. So let's talk about a little bit about the funding coming from our senior levels of government, which have been doing a great job. What areas of focus do we hope after this pandemic is on its downward spiral of the curve to help our struggling economy? I know a lot of our local businesses are looking towards you guys to say, how can we help after this? What's in place thus far?
Well, look, it is a crisis of unprecedented levels. We're seeing, many people, obviously in the hundreds of thousands of people in Ontario that are laid off, they're not working, thousands and thousands of businesses who have had to shut their doors. That's why this physical distancing and, following the advice of our health officials is so important. The Premier has put together a Jobs and Recovery Committee. He's asked me to join that committee as Minister of Labour, Training and Skills Development. So we really are, focusing on reopening the economy once we, really start to flatten this curve. And the people locally are doing a great job of battling COVID-19. All levels of government seem to be working very, very well together. I know I meet regularly via a teleconference with my federal counterparts that line up with my ministries provincially. The federal government have done a good job of getting checks into families' hands and to businesses' hands. Our government has also put a package together of $17 billion that Premier Ford and the Finance Minister announced a few weeks ago. Just a couple highlights of that. One of the things we did was reduce hydro rates to move to that off-peak hour, which means it reduced hydro rates in most cases by 50%. During this crisis. In our ministry, the Ministry of Labour, we deferred all WSIB premiums for small businesses to the fall. So really a number of measures just to help get through this crisis. And Premier Ford has said we'll be with the business community and families coming out of this every single step of the way.
Do you have any information about employees who have potentially lost their jobs because of COVID-19, apply for the CERB? And after all this is said and done, do we have other extra resources that we hope to have in place to help them find reliable employment?
So the answer is yes. We're building that, those machinery of government now to help people find those jobs coming out of COVID-19. But just to backtrack a bit, what we've done and what our government did and I did as Minister of Labour, in the very, very beginning of this, we introduced a piece of legislation. It was the number one thing we did weeks and weeks ago that said that if you were someone in self-isolation, if you were in quarantine, if you were at home, a mom or dad looking after their son or daughter who was in or couldn't go to school because they were closed down, that you couldn't be fired for doing that. So we did put those job protections measures in. The federal government partnered with us to ensure that those emergency relief funds were available to families and people that were self-employed. Coming out of this, though, it's going to be just so important that we methodically open up businesses again and include those businesses on the essential business list. But again, it's all about having that health data to back it up, and we can't risk having a second wave of COVID coming again later. So, it's a balancing act for now. I know it's very, very hard for those small businesses and families in our communities, but we're working and we are turning a corner in this fight, and that's thanks to the people of Ontario.
Yep. Yep. Nope. We're all in this together, and definitely can't do it one person. We need the whole team in there. So I had spoke with Darren Caniff and his team about some of the challenges locally our municipality is facing. What has your team been facing as some of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, it is challenging. I mean, I'm like everybody else across my riding and across Chatham-Kent, where you're working in different areas. Myself, this morning I'm in a spare bedroom down in my basement. I'm in. I spend 2 or 3 mornings a week in my constituency office, just fielding calls from local constituents. I mean, we're bombarded with questions, and I mean thousands of them just locally. And a shout out to my team for fielding those questions, and to those people, it's very challenging getting answers. The government phone lines are very, very busy. The websites are busy. There's confusion between whether it's federal government, provincial government, or municipal government. But like you said, we are all in this together. Personally, my cabinet meetings, for example, they're on a daily basis. We do them via teleconference now. Yeah. Caucus meetings are done via Zoom. Our interviews are done via Skype. So, I mean, the world has changed in a short period of time. But I'm really, really hoping, we can get this defeated and just turn the page and start looking forward. We need that hope and optimism once again.
Yeah. No, you made me think about, the difference between senior levels of government. What is it? Is it provincial? Is it federal? Is it, I think a lot of people are actually confused on, who's taking care of what. And, I think everyone, again, is banding together to figure out, who's going to take the lead on this. So let's turn that negative into a positive. There's got to be some good news stories out there for your team. What have been some of your favorites moving down the line here?
First and foremost, it is those unsung heroes across our area and right across the province. So, those grocery store clerks, those truck drivers who are getting groceries and pharmacy supplies to families and to store shelves, to those, in our ministry, the Ministry of Labor inspectors who are going in, keeping those workplaces safe that are currently open. The health and safety is just top of mind for everyone, and rightfully so for me as Minister of Labor and Training and Skills Development. It's my top priority. Those healthcare workers. I mean, we see on the news at 7:30 at night in many, many communities. The hometown where I grew up in Newbury the other night did it, just banging pots and pans to celebrate those healthcare workers. I mean, it's really brought communities and families together. I love that. I love seeing that. The Premier talks about the Ontario spirit, those small businesses that are giving back. They're donating PPE. They're raising money for the local hospital. We have restaurants that are delivering food to frontline healthcare workers in Wallaceburg and Chatham at the hospital. So there's great enthusiasm coming out of this, and there'll be a lot of changes in the economy, but that Ontario spirit is loud and proud here in Ontario.
Yep, every province has been doing it well, and I think Ontario is literally, we're waving that flag of Ontario as high as can be, because we want to get out here and we want to enjoy the outdoor sun. We want to enjoy all that activity and that's hopefully coming up this summer. So, Monte, thank you so much for taking the time. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up here?
Well, I just want to thank everyone for doing their part to defeat COVID-19. We, never knew that this was coming. Obviously, it's happening right around the world, but the people have really stepped up. The small business community, the hospital staff and the hospitals and the municipal council. So many folks have stepped up to defeat this, and I just want to give a shout out to them. We really do have amazing people in this province, and I just want to wish them all the best. We are turning a corner. We're going to defeat this, and we will come back stronger than ever.
Great. Thank you very much for what you and your team are doing out there, and hopefully, again, we can all have one big, giant Ontario party once this is all said and done.
Thank you very much.